The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. In this video we will talk about a famous book, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. Before going on, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos. Adam Smith's book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, was crucial in the development of a new academic topic since it established economics as a distinct area of inquiry in its own right. It was the first book on economics to attract the attention of the public, and it is just as much a brilliant piece of fiction as it is anything else. Smith's casual writing style, along with his bravery in criticizing the stupidity of rulers and the corrupting effects of vested interests, contributed to his rise to prominence as a public figure. The result of acting in one's self-interest. According to Smith's line of thinking, it does not matter if civilizations are primarily driven by self-interest because the result is positive whatever. The invisible hand of the free market ensures that individuals who behave in the best interest of themselves as a whole end up uplifting society as a whole. This is not a reason to behave in a manner that is greedy or unjust. It is a straightforward assertion that an individual's sincere efforts to advance in life for the benefit of either himself or his family will result in an efficient application of available resources. If a society is allowed to behave in this manner, it will invariably make the most of what it possesses, and over time it will become richer. It highlighted his idea of self-sufficiency, which holds that we are more willing to serve others and are in a better position to do so when we have taken care of our own needs. Prosperity attained by specialized effort. Smith thought that the organization of a country's labor force, or more precisely the skill, dexterity, and judgment with which its labor is commonly used, was the single most important factor in determining a nation's level of prosperity over time. It was also dependent on the percentage of the population that was engaged in productive labor. He observes that in wealthy countries, the majority of people's requirements are met by society as a whole, even though many individuals do not have jobs. This is because wealthy nations often have a significantly more advanced division of labor than do less developed nations. It is possible to save a significant amount of time by avoiding switching from one activity to another if the tasks are divided up according to the capabilities of the individuals who are best suited to complete them. On the other hand, the notion of the division of labor applies to more than only the creation of tangible goods. According to Smith, in evolved cultures, the generation of novel concepts develops into the trade of an entire group of individuals, coexisting alongside the performance of more menial tasks. Because of this type of specialization, each individual gets more skilled in his distinctive branch, more work is done overall, and the quantity of science is significantly increased as the division of labor in a society that is effectively regulated results in universal opulence, which means that every worker can meet their requirements. What determines value? According to Smith, the amount of labor that has been put into the creation of anything, which prevents the buyer from having to go through the same labor, is what determines the worth of the thing. People amass great wealth when they create something of exceptionally high utility that can be saved with. How countries accumulate their wealth. Smith lays out a straightforward plan for how people and nations might amass great riches, and it all begins with the people of such nations becoming diligent savers. The money that is saved is eventually put toward useful endeavors. During Smith's lifetime, the concept that nations might become wealthy through a combination of savings, investment, and employment was by no means the most widely held belief. According to the mercantilist point of view, a nation's primary economic goal should be to increase its hoard of gold, silver, and other precious metals by any means necessary, including trade and conflict. In contrast, Smith's recipe appeared to be of a more middle-class and modest nature. Trade is another means by which nations have the potential to increase their wealth. Countries that engage in trade will always have a greater standard of living than those that do not. This is because a country that engages in trade can acquire raw materials that it does not already possess and transform them into manufactured goods, which are significantly more valuable than raw commodities and can then be sold to other nations at a significant profit. Not only did medieval European cities like Florence gain enormous wealth by conducting business with the countryside near the city, but they also conducted trade with the most remote corners of the earth. What not to do: stealing, fighting, and indulging in luxuries. The day of financial reckoning will come for the person who chooses to spend their money on luxury rather than building up their savings account.
In a similar vein, according to Smith's writings, a sovereign who spends enormous quantities of money on palaces, the trappings of a court, and pointless wars is asking for problems.
A nation that thinks it can become wealthy by robbing other nations of everything they have to offer is just as wicked as the other nations. A nation would be better off carefully developing its resources and using commerce to sell its surpluses and bring in what it needed to manufacture high-value products. This is preferable to the alternative, which is to loot in search of extraordinary returns. Liberty inherent in nature. During the time of Smith, there were legions of officials who worked to ensure that the state could take every available penny through the use of a variety of taxes, customs, excises, and arbitrary laws. It was successful because it pointed instead to the notion of natural liberty, which argued that people should be free to follow their economic interests with as little intervention from the government as possible. This led to the book's title, Wealth of Nations. Smith was adamant that the role of the government should be limited to only the following three areas: defending a culture or civilization against an attack, protecting people against the injustice or oppression of every other member of it by instituting a legal system that is commensurate with this goal, constructing and sustaining public structures and institutions that are prohibitively expensive for a single person to undertake, but that would be of tremendous value to society as a whole, would be an excellent investment. Taxes ought to be used to cover the cost of all of these items. On the other hand, when something is only beneficial to a subset of the population, the costs associated with it ought to be borne either privately or by a tax levied on the consumers. Smith believed that those who benefited the most from education should also be willing to pay for it, even though he supported the establishment of a basic schooling system. Final remarks. At first glance, the rulers of those countries very certainly assumed that the title of the book referred to the wealth of their respective states. However, Smith used the term nation to refer to the people who lived in those countries. He thought that the most astute governments did not place faith in themselves to produce wealth. Rather, they placed faith in the inventiveness of the population of their nation. Smith's characterization of the duty of government has, for the most part, survived the test of time thanks to its straightforwardness and common sense. In the present day, governments can become enormous and bloated, expanding into spheres that are not their area of responsibility, but, in the long run, this will inevitably make the general public poorer. Smith argues that this kind of investment has the potential to taint the natural tendency of society to distribute its resources most effectively. How was the video? Did you enjoy it? Post your feedback in our comments section below and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates.